The scent of espresso and old leather filled my father's study as I stood by the window, watching rain streak down the glass like tears I refused to shed. Milan spread before me in shades of gray, the city I'd grown up in now feeling like a beautiful cage. My fingers traced the condensation on the window pane, and I found myself thinking about another rainy night, years ago, when everything had been different, when he had been different. Vittoria. My father's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp as always. Pay attention. This concerns you. I turned from the window, smoothing down my black dress, mourning clothes, though no one had died. At least, not physically. Giuseppe Morello sat across from my father, his weathered face impassive, but his eyes held something I couldn't quite read. Calculation, perhaps, or satisfaction. The Morellos and Cavallis have been allies for 3 generations, my father continued, his fingers drumming against the mahogany desk. Our blood runs together. Our interests are intertwined. I knew this speech, had heard variations of it my entire life. What I didn't know was why I'd been summoned to hear it again, at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, with rain hammering against the windows like an omen. Eduardo returns tomorrow, Giuseppe said, his voice gravelly from decades of cigars and commands, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my spine straighten. The executor comes home. The air left my lungs. Eduardo. The name I'd forbidden myself from thinking, from speaking, from even whispering in the dark when sleep wouldn't come. The name carved into my heart with the same blade that had once cut our palms, mixing our blood under a full moon when we'd been too young to understand what forever really meant. I see you remember him, Giuseppe observed, that unreadable expression shifting into something almost like approval. Good, that will make this easier. Make what easier? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Years of training, how to hold your head high when your world is crumbling, how to smile when you want to scream, how to be a Morello princess even when you're dying inside. My father stood, moving to the bar to pour amber liquid into crystal glasses. You and Eduardo made a promise once, a blood oath, ice spread through my veins. We were children. You were 15, Giuseppe corrected, old enough to understand the weight of a blood debt in our world, old enough to know that such promises are binding. I had been 15. Eduardo had been 16. We'd hidden in the old chapel on the Morello estate, the one no one used anymore except for storing wine and forgotten memories. The moonlight had streamed through broken stained glass, painting his face in shades of blue and silver as he'd looked at me like I was something sacred. Swear it with me, Vittoria, he'd whispered, his voice rough with emotion I didn't yet understand. Swear that you're mine and I'm yours. Forever. The knife had been cold against my palm. His hand had been warm when it closed over mine, our blood mingling, dripping onto the stone floor like a sacrament. Forever, I'd breathed, believing it with every fiber of my being. The boy who left is not the man who returns, my father said, handing Giuseppe a glass. Eduardo Morello has become one of the most feared men in Europe. The executor doesn't just kill, he dismantles empires, eliminates problems, ensures our family's continued dominance. His reputation precedes him. And he's coming to collect his debt, Giuseppe added, his eyes never leaving my face. He's coming for you, Vittoria, as was always meant to be. No, the word escaped before I could stop it. I won't. You will. My father's voice was iron. This isn't a request. The alliance between our families is strengthened by this union. Your marriage to Eduardo has been expected since you were children. The blood oath merely formalized what was always inevitable. Marriage. The word hung in the air like a noose. He left, I said, my voice breaking despite my best efforts. He left without a word, without explanation. For 6 years, nothing. And now he thinks he can just come back and... He can, Giuseppe interrupted, his tone gentle but unyielding. Because you promised him your life, Vittoria, and in our world such promises are sacred. They're paid in blood, or they're paid in blood. Those are the only two options. The threat was clear. Refuse, and people would die. Accept, and only my heart would. I looked at my father, searching for some softness, some indication that he cared about what I wanted. But Antonio Cavalli had never been a soft man. He'd raised me to be strong, to understand that in the Mafia, personal desires were secondary to family obligations. Love was a luxury we couldn't afford. When? I asked, surrendering because I had no choice. He arrives tomorrow at noon, Giuseppe said. He's requested to see you immediately upon his return. Alone. Alone? My father frowned. Giuseppe, that's highly irregular. My daughter's reputation will be protected by the engagement announcement we'll make the following day, Giuseppe finished smoothly. Eduardo was very specific in his requirements. He wants to speak with Vittoria privately, to discuss their future. The way he said future made it clear this conversation would be about much more than wedding plans. Fine. I lifted my chin, channeling every ounce of Morello pride I possessed. Where? The chapel, Giuseppe said, and something flashed in his eyes. Where you made your promise. He said you'd understand. Of course he'd chosen the chapel. Eduardo had always had a flair for the dramatic, even as a boy. Or perhaps especially as a boy, before the world had taught him that drama was weakness, and weakness was death. I remembered him at 12, already taller than boys 2 years older, with eyes so dark they looked black in certain lights. The other children had feared him, whispered that he was touched by the devil, that he'd killed a man who disrespected his mother when he was only 10 years old. The rumors said he'd smiled while doing it. But with me, he'd been different. Gentle, almost shy, in a way that seemed impossible for someone with so much violence coiled beneath his skin. You're not afraid of me, he'd said once, sounding almost disappointed. We were 13 and 12, sitting in his family's garden while our fathers discussed business inside. Should I be? I'd asked, genuinely curious. Everyone else is. Everyone else is stupid. I'd plucked a rose from the bush beside me, ignoring the thorns that pricked my fingers. You're not scary. You're just protective. He'd stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in those dark eyes. Then he'd taken the rose from my hand and tucked it behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my cheek. Protective, he'd repeated softly. Yes, I like that better than monster. Vittoria, my father's voice pulled me back to the present. This is an honor. The executor could have any woman he wanted. That he's chosen to honor the blood oath you made speaks to his integrity. Integrity. As if claiming a woman because of a promise made by children was somehow honorable rather than possessive. But I kept those thoughts to myself. In our world, obedience was survival. What time tomorrow? I asked. 3 o'clock, Giuseppe said, rising. Don't be late, child. Eduardo has changed since he left. He's not known for his patience anymore. After they left, I remained in my father's study, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. 21 years old, and my life had been decided by a promise made when I was 15. A promise sealed in blood to a boy who no longer existed. The executor was coming home, and I had no choice but to face him. And I didn't sleep that night. How could I, knowing that in less than 12 hours I'd see him again? The boy I'd loved with the desperate intensity only a teenage girl could muster. The boy who'd looked at me like I was the only beautiful thing in his violent world. The boy who'd left without saying goodbye. By the time dawn broke over Milan, I'd replayed every memory a dozen times. Every stolen moment. Every whispered promise. Every touch that had made my heart race. And the final memory. The one I'd tried so hard to forget. The night before he left, though I hadn't known it then. We were in the chapel again, our sanctuary, our secret place. 16 and 15, standing so close I could feel the heat radiating from his body. "One day," he'd said, his thumb tracing my bottom lip, "I'm going to marry you, Vittoria Cavalli. And when I do, the whole world will know you're mine." "I'm already yours," I'd whispered back. "The blood oath." "Forget the blood oath." His voice had been fierce, almost desperate. "I don't want you because of a promise, Bella. I want you because you're the only person who sees me. Really sees me. Not the monster everyone else sees. Just me." I'd kissed him then, standing on my toes to reach his lips, and he'd groaned like I was undoing him. His arms had come around me, pulling me so close there was no space left between us. "Eduardo," I'd breathed against his mouth. "Say it again." "Eduardo." Again. "Eduardo, Eduardo, Eduardo." He'd kissed me harder, deeper, stealing my breath and my sense until all I knew was him. The taste of him, the feel of him, the way he trembled slightly, as if I were something precious he was afraid to break. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no explanation, just gone. His father had said Eduardo was being trained, prepared for his role in the family, that he'd return when he was ready. 6 years of silence suggested he hadn't been ready, or perhaps he simply hadn't cared. I dressed carefully for our meeting, choosing a simple black dress that showed nothing but suggested everything. My dark hair fell in waves past my shoulders, and I left my face mostly bare, just a touch of lipstick, deep red like blood, like the blood we'd shared. The drive to the Morello estate took 20 minutes through rain-soaked streets. The city looked gray and cold, matching my mood perfectly. Marco, my father's driver and bodyguard, kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "You okay, Vittoria?" he asked finally. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine. You look like you're going to your execution." The word made me laugh, bitter and sharp. In a way, I am. The Morello estate rose before us, all stone and iron and old-world elegance. I'd played here as a child, run through these gardens, hidden in these corridors. It had felt like a second home once. Now, it felt like a mausoleum. Giuseppe met me at the door, his expression grave. "He's waiting in the chapel. Go alone," as he requested. I nodded, my throat too tight for words. The walk to the chapel felt endless. Through the main house, down the covered walkway, across the garden where roses bloomed even in October. Each step brought me closer to a confrontation I wasn't ready for. The chapel door stood open, and I paused on the threshold, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. He stood with his back to me, looking up at the broken, stained glass we'd once found so beautiful. Even from behind, I could see he'd changed. Taller, broader through the shoulders, every line of his body speaking of coiled strength and barely restrained violence. "Eduardo," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He turned, and the world tilted beneath my feet. He was beautiful in the way dangerous things are beautiful, like a blade catching the light, like a storm rolling across the sea, breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. The boy I'd loved had been handsome, all sharp angles and dark intensity. The man before me was devastating. His face had hardened into something crueler, more refined. The softness I remembered was gone, replaced by edges that could cut. His dark hair was shorter now, styled back from a face that belonged on Renaissance statues, if those statues had been carved to inspire fear rather than admiration. But it was his eyes that stopped my breath. Still black, still bottomless, but cold now, so cold I could feel the chill from across the chapel. "Vittoria." My name in his mouth sounded like a prayer and a curse. His voice had deepened, roughened, carrying an accent that was more pronounced than I remembered. As if he'd spent these years somewhere that had stripped away the polish, leaving only raw edges. You came back. I hated how my voice wavered. I told you I would. He moved toward me with fluid grace, each step measured, predatory. Did you doubt me? You left without a word for 6 years. Yes, I doubted you. Something flickered in his eyes, too fast to identify before it was locked away behind that impenetrable coldness. I had my reasons. I'm sure you did. I forced steel into my spine, into my voice. I was a Cavalli. I didn't cower, even before men who looked at me like I was prey. Your father said you wanted to see me, to discuss our future. Our future. He smiled, and it was nothing like the smiles I remembered. This smile was sharp, calculated. Yes, let's discuss that. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I could smell him. Not the boyish scent of soap and summer I remembered, but something darker. Expensive cologne with notes of cedar and leather, underneath something metallic that made me think of gun oil and danger. The blood oath still stands, he said, not a question. So I've been told. You don't sound pleased about that, Bella. The endearment made my chest tighten. Don't call me that. Why not? It's what you are. Beautiful. His eyes traveled over me slowly, thoroughly, like he was cataloging every change. More beautiful than I remembered, actually. You were a girl when I left. You're a woman now. And you were a boy. Now you're the executor. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. They say you've killed over 100 men. 237. He said it casually, like discussing the weather. But who's counting? The number hit me like a physical blow. 237 lives ended by his hands. By hands that had once held mine so gently, that had trembled when they touched my face. Does that frighten you? He asked, tilting his head slightly. Should it? Everyone else is afraid of you, I said, echoing words I'd spoken years ago. But I'm not everyone else. No. He stepped closer, and I forced myself not to retreat. You're mine. You've always been mine, Vittoria. The blood we shared. We were children. We were old enough to know what we wanted. His hand came up, and I flinched despite myself. He noticed, and something dark crossed his face. I'm not going to hurt you. You already did. When you left. The words hung between us, raw and honest. For a moment, just a moment, I saw something in his eyes that looked almost like pain. Then it was gone, shuttered away behind that impenetrable mask. I did what I had to do. His voice was flat, emotionless. And now I'm back to claim what's mine. I'm not yours to claim. Yes, you are. He was close now, so close I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. You swore it. Your blood mingled with mine on this very floor. In our world, that's more binding than any contract, any law. You belong to me, Vittoria, and I've come to collect. And if I refuse? His smile widened, showing teeth. You won't. The arrogance should have made me furious. Instead, I felt something else entirely, something warm and dangerous unfurling low in my stomach. How can you be so sure? Because I know you. His hand finally made contact, fingers trailing along my jaw with devastating gentleness. I know you used to sneak into the garden at midnight to look at the stars. I know you hate roses but love peonies. I know you cry during thunderstorms because your mother died during one. I know everything about you, Bella. Even the things you think you've hidden. His words were terrifying because they were true. He did know me. Had known me better than anyone. That was a lifetime ago, I whispered. Some things don't change. His thumb traced my bottom lip, exactly as it had years ago, and my breath caught. You're still mine. You've always been mine. The only difference now is that I'm strong enough to keep you. A sound from the chapel entrance made us both turn. Giuseppe stood there, his expression carefully neutral. Forgive the interruption, he said. But Eduardo, there's someone here who demands to see you. She says it's urgent. She? I asked before I could stop myself. Isabella Romano, Giuseppe said, and I didn't miss the way his eyes flicked to me. She's quite insistent that she speak with you immediately. Eduardo's jaw tightened. Tell her to wait. She claims you promised her? I promised her nothing. His voice went cold, deadly. Tell her I'm busy. Who is Isabella Romano? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. No one important. Eduardo's attention returned to me, but something had shifted. We're not finished here, Vittoria. Actually, we are. I stepped back, needing distance from his overwhelming presence. Your father wants to announce our engagement tomorrow. I assume you'll be there? Of course. Where else would I be? With Isabella Romano, perhaps. The words tasted bitter. His eyes narrowed. Are you jealous, Bella? Curious. There's a difference. Isabella is a complication that will be dealt with. She has no claim on me. Unlike me, you mean, since I apparently have your blood oath binding me to you forever. Exactly. He moved closer again, backing me against the stone wall. You're mine, Vittoria. No one else's. Not now, not ever. And tomorrow, when we announce our engagement, everyone will know it. What if I don't show up? Then I'll come find you. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. And when I do, I'll make sure you understand exactly what happens to people who try to run from me. I'm not the boy you remember, Vittoria. I'm the executor now. I don't ask. I take. He leaned down, his lips brushing my ear. Tomorrow, noon, the Morello estate. Don't make me come looking for you. Then he was gone, leaving me trembling against the wall, my heart racing, my body betraying me with its response to his proximity. Giuseppe approached carefully. Are you all right, child? No, I pushed away from the wall, forcing my legs to hold me upright. Who is Isabella Romano? His expression grew troubled. She was close to Eduardo, during his time away. I don't know the details, but she arrived this morning, claiming he'd made promises to her. Marriage promises. Ice spread through my chest. He has a fiancé? Not officially, but Isabella seems to believe otherwise. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Of course. Why should I be surprised? The executor takes what he wants. Consequences be damned. Vittoria, I need to go. I gathered what remained of my composure. Tell my father I'll be home for dinner. The drive back to my family's estate passed in a blur. My mind kept replaying the encounter, analyzing every word, every look, every touch. Eduardo had changed. The boy who'd trembled when he kissed me was gone, replaced by a man who took what he wanted without hesitation. But underneath the coldness, I'd seen something. Brief flashes of the Eduardo I remembered. The way his hand had shaken slightly when he touched my face. The pain that had flickered in his eyes when I mentioned him leaving. He wasn't as unaffected as he pretended to be. The question was, did that matter? Flashback. 8 years ago. Vittoria, close your eyes, Eduardo said, his voice bubbling with barely contained excitement. We were 14 and 13, and he dragged me to the chapel with promises of a surprise. I closed my eyes obediently, trusting him completely. I felt him take my hand, leading me carefully forward. Okay, open them. I gasped. The entire chapel was filled with peonies. Hundreds of them, pink and white and cream, their sweet scent overwhelming. How did you? I remembered you said they were your favorite, he said, suddenly shy. I wanted to do something nice for you. Eduardo, this must have cost. I don't care about the cost. He stepped closer, his dark eyes intense. I'd give you anything, Vittoria. Anything you wanted. All you have to do is ask. I'd kissed his cheek then, and he'd turned bright red, stumbling over his words as he tried to act unaffected. The boy who blushed at a kiss on the cheek was gone. The man who'd returned didn't blush. He conquered. And I had 3 weeks to figure out how to protect what remained of my heart before I became Mrs. Eduardo Morello. The executor's wife. God help me. The engagement announcement was set for the next day at noon, to be held in the grand ballroom of the Morello estate. My father had already selected my dress, a deep burgundy silk that clung to every curve, the color of wine and blood and Morello tradition. I stared at it hanging in my closet, hating how beautiful it was, hating how part of me wanted to wear it for him. I was standing at my bedroom window, watching rain streak down the glass again, when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. The garden. Now. Come alone. E. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was past midnight. Everyone in my father's house was asleep. Going to meet Eduardo alone, in the dark, was reckless. I grabbed my coat and went anyway. The garden behind my family's estate was overgrown in places, wild roses tangling with more cultivated blooms. I found him near the fountain, rain dampening his dark hair, making it curl slightly at the nape of his neck. He wore all black, expensive, perfectly tailored, like shadows given form. You came, he said, not turning around. You commanded. I obeyed. Isn't that what you expect from your future wife? Now he turned, and even in the darkness, I could see the flash of anger in his eyes. Don't. Don't what? Pretend to be someone you're not. The submissive, obedient wife. He moved toward me, raindrops catching in his eyelashes. I don't want that from you, Vittoria. I never did. What do you want from me? The question came out more desperate than I intended. The truth. He stopped close enough that I could see water droplets sliding down his throat, disappearing beneath his collar. Did you wait for me? The question stole my breath. What? 6 years. Did you wait for me? Or were there others? Fury ignited in my chest. You have no right to ask me that. I have every right. You're mine. I was 15 when you left. My voice rose despite my attempts to control it. You disappeared without a word. What was I supposed to do? Pine away like some tragic heroine? Build a shrine to your memory? Did you? His voice was dangerous, soft. Did I what? Wait for me, yes or no. I wanted to lie. Wanted to tell him I'd had dozens of lovers, that I'd forgotten him the moment he left. But the words wouldn't come. Yes, I finally admitted, the confession tasting like defeat. God help me, yes. I waited. Even though I knew I shouldn't. Even though you didn't deserve it. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite relief, but close. There's been no one else? No one who mattered. It was the truth. There had been kisses, fumbling attempts at moving on. But every time someone touched me, all I could think was that their hands weren't his hands. Their lips weren't his lips. They weren't Eduardo. Good. He reached out, his fingers tangling in my wet hair. Because if there had been, I would have killed them. Every single one. You're insane. About you? Yes. He pulled me closer, until our bodies were almost touching. I've always been insane about you, Bella. That hasn't changed. Everything's changed. You're not the boy I loved. He finished for me. Say it, Vittoria. Say you loved me. Flashback. 7 years ago. We were in his room, which I wasn't supposed to be in. 15 and 16, sitting on his bed while rain hammered against the windows. His parents were away. My father thought I was at a friend's house. Tell me something true, Eduardo said, lying beside me, our fingers intertwined. Something you've never told anyone else. I love thunderstorms, I whispered, even though they scare me, because my mother used to hold me during them before she died, and for those moments I felt completely safe. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I love you. My heart stopped. What? I love you, Vittoria Cavalli. I've loved you since we were children. I'll love you until I die. He rolled onto his side, his dark eyes intense in the lamplight. I know I'm not supposed to say it. I know it makes me weak. But it's true. You're the only good thing in my life. The only pure thing in this world of blood and violence. Eduardo. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. In case something happens. In case... I kissed him to stop the words. Kissed him with all the desperate love a 15-year-old girl could feel. When we broke apart, we were both trembling. I love you too, I breathed against his lips. I love you too. I loved the boy you were, I told the man before me, pulling myself back to the present, but that boy is gone. No. His grip tightened in my hair, just shy of painful. He's not gone. He's just buried, under everything I've had to become. Why did you leave? The question I'd wanted to ask since the moment I saw him in the chapel finally escaped. If you loved me like you said, how could you just disappear? Pain flashed across his face, raw and real. Then his mask slammed back into place. That's not a conversation for tonight. When? Then. When will you explain? After we're married? After you've locked me in a cage made of blood oaths and tradition? I've never wanted to cage you. His voice roughened. I want to protect you. From what? From everything. Everyone. His other hand came up to frame my face, both of us soaking wet now, rain plastering my clothes to my skin. You don't understand how dangerous our world has become. The families are fractured. New players are moving in. The peace our fathers maintained is crumbling. What does that have to do with us? Everything. He leaned his forehead against mine, and for a moment, he was just Eduardo again. My Eduardo. You're my weakness, Vittoria. You always have been. And in this world, weakness gets you killed. Understanding dawned, cold and sharp. You left to protect me. I left because my father told me that enemies had learned about you, about what you meant to me. They were planning to use you against me, against the family. His voice went hollow. They were going to take you, hurt you, make me watch, and then kill you anyway, just to prove they could. So you disappeared. So I became someone they couldn't threaten. Someone so terrifying, so ruthless, that the mere thought of crossing me would make them reconsider. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. I became the executor. I killed everyone who'd even thought about touching you. And then I kept killing, building a reputation so fearsome that no one would dare to use you against me ever again. Tears mixed with rain on my cheeks. You should have told me. You were 15. You would have tried to stop me. Or worse, you would have waited, hoping I'd come back the same. I needed you to move on, to forget me. I couldn't. I know. He smiled, sad and broken. I watched you, Vittoria. All these years. I had people reporting back to me. Every man who looked at you too long, Every boy who tried to court you, I knew about all of them. And I made sure they understood you were off limits. The revelation should have horrified me. Instead, I felt something else. Something warm and possessive spreading through my chest. You never stopped watching over me. Never. His voice was fierce now. You think I left because I stopped loving you? I left because I loved you too much, because protecting you was more important than being with you. And now? Now I'm strong enough to do both, to protect you and keep you. He pulled back enough to look into my eyes. Marry me, Vittoria. Not because of the blood oath. Not because our fathers arranged it. Marry me because you want to. Because what we had, what we still have, is worth fighting for. How can I trust you won't leave again? You can't. His honesty was brutal, but I can promise you this. If I ever have to leave, it will only be to protect you. And I will always come back. Always. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. The engagement announcement, I said slowly. Can we delay it? Give me time to... No. His voice went hard. The announcement happens tomorrow as planned. Every family needs to see that you're under my protection, that touching you means war with the Morellos. So I don't get a choice. You have a choice. He released me, stepping back. You can fight this. Refuse to marry me. Try to run. His eyes went cold. But know that if you do, I'll hunt you down. I'll find you wherever you go. And when I do, I'll make sure you understand exactly who you belong to. That's not a choice. That's a threat. It's a promise. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. This was my grandmother's. She wore it for 60 years, married to a man who loved her so completely that when she died, he followed her 6 months later. They say Morello men only love once. But when they do, it's forever. He opened the box, revealing a ring that stole my breath. An emerald-cut ruby surrounded by diamonds, the deep red of blood against platinum. Tomorrow, I'll put this on your finger in front of everyone who matters in our world, and you'll smile and accept it, because you understand that this is the only way to keep you safe. He closed the box with a soft snap. But tonight, here in this garden where no one can see us, I'm asking you as the boy you loved. Will you marry me? The rain fell harder, soaking us both. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and I thought of my mother, of feeling safe in the storm. Eduardo made me feel safe and terrified in equal measure. He was the storm and the shelter both. Yes, I whispered, surrendering to what had always been inevitable. I'll marry you. He kissed me then, fierce and possessive and desperately gentle all at once. Kissed me like he'd been starving for 6 years and I was his first meal. I kissed him back, pouring all my confusion and anger and terrible, persistent love into it. When we broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. I'll make you happy, Bella. I swear it. You'll make me crazy, I corrected. That too. I could hear the smile in his voice. But you'll never be bored. Eduardo? Yes? Isabella Romano? What is she to you? His body went rigid. How do you know about Isabella? Your father mentioned her. She was at the estate yesterday demanding to see you. He cursed in Italian, low and vicious. Isabella is a complication from my time in Sicily. She believed we had an understanding. We didn't. Did you sleep with her? Does it matter? Yes. He sighed. Once. It was a mistake. One I have no intention of repeating. Jealousy burned through me, irrational and fierce. Does she know that? She will. I'll make it clear tomorrow. He cupped my face again. You're the only woman I've ever loved, Vittoria. The only one who's ever mattered. Isabella was a distraction. Nothing more. I wanted to believe him, chose to believe him, because the alternative was too painful. "Take me home," I said quietly. "Before someone realizes I'm gone." He walked me back to my father's house, his hand never leaving mine. At the garden gate, he pulled me close one more time. "Tomorrow changes everything," he murmured against my hair. "Are you ready?" "No," I admitted. "But I'll do it anyway." "That's my brave girl." He pressed a kiss to my forehead, tender in a way that reminded me achingly of the boy he'd been. "Sleep well, Bella. Tomorrow you become mine in front of the entire world." After he left, I stood in the garden, touching my lips where he'd kissed me, feeling the ghost of his hands on my skin. The executor was claiming his bride, and I was walking toward my fate with eyes wide open. The burgundy dress fit perfectly, of course. My father had impeccable taste when it came to displaying his assets, and today I was exactly that, an asset being transferred from one powerful man to another. I stared at my reflection as my stylist, Elena, pinned my hair into an elegant updo, leaving a few dark curls to frame my face. The woman looking back at me appeared calm, poised, every inch the Mafia princess she'd been raised to be. Inside, I was screaming. "You look beautiful, Vittoria," Elena said softly, her eyes meeting mine in the mirror. "Are you nervous?" "Terrified," I admitted, because Elena had known me since I was a child. She was one of the few people I could be honest with. "Eduardo Morello is a good match, powerful, wealthy, and from what I hear, completely devoted to you." "Devoted or obsessed?" I asked. "There's a difference." She smiled sadly. "In our world, they're often the same thing." The car arrived at 11:30. Black, sleek, bulletproof windows, because of course the executor's fiancé would need protection. Marco drove, but there was another man in the passenger seat I didn't recognize. Young, maybe 25, with sharp eyes that constantly scanned our surroundings. "Who's he?" I asked Marco. "Luca. He's been assigned to your security detail. Eduardo's orders." "I have a security detail now?" "You're marrying the executor, Miss Cavalli. Of course you have a security detail." The Morello estate looked different in daylight. The gardens were perfectly manicured, the mansion gleaming white against the gray sky. Cars lined the circular driveway, expensive vehicles belonging to families whose names carried weight and fear in equal measure. Everyone who mattered would be here today. Everyone would witness my surrender. Giuseppe met me at the entrance, his expression warm but assessing. "Vittoria, you look stunning, child. Eduardo is already inside, speaking with some of the family heads. He's eager to see you." "I'm sure he is," I murmured, allowing him to escort me through the marble foyer. The ballroom had been transformed. White roses and peonies everywhere, he'd remembered, with deep red accents that matched my dress. Crystal chandeliers caught the light, scattering it across faces I recognized. The Russos, the Benedettis, the Castellis, every major Italian family represented. And there, at the center of it all, stood Eduardo. He wore a black suit that looked like it cost more than most cars, tailored to emphasize his broad shoulders and lean frame. His dark hair was styled back, revealing the harsh beauty of his face. When his eyes found mine across the room, everything else faded. He moved toward me with that predatory grace, the crowd parting automatically. No one wanted to be in the executor's path. "Vittoria." He took my hand, raising it to his lips. The gesture was old-fashioned, almost courtly, but the heat in his eyes was anything but civilized. "You're exquisite." "You clean up well yourself," I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. "Shall we?" He offered his arm, and I took it, feeling the solid strength of him beneath expensive fabric. We moved to the center of the room, and Giuseppe called for attention. The crowd quieted immediately, all eyes on us. "Thank you all for coming today," Giuseppe began, his voice carrying authority. "The Morello family is honored to announce the engagement of my son, Edoardo Morello, to Vittoria Cavalli, daughter of Antonio Cavalli. This union strengthens the bonds between our families and honors a promise made many years ago." A promise sealed in blood, he didn't say, but everyone knew. "The wedding will take place in 3 weeks," Giuseppe continued, "and we hope you'll all join us in celebrating the beginning of this new chapter." 3 weeks. I'd thought I had more time. Edoardo must have felt me tense because his hand covered mine where it rested on his arm, a gesture that could have been comforting or possessive. With him, it was always both. "Now, if you'll excuse us," Edoardo said, his voice cutting through the murmured congratulations, "I'd like a moment alone with my fiancé." He didn't wait for permission, simply guided me out of the ballroom and down a hallway I recognized. Toward his private study, the one place in the entire estate that had always been his sanctuary. 3 weeks? I asked the moment the door closed behind us. "That's barely any time to plan a wedding?" He moved to the bar, pouring amber liquid into 2 glasses. "My mother and yours have been planning our wedding since we were children. All that's left is to execute their vision." How appropriate, the executor executing a wedding. He smiled, handing me a glass. "Drink. You look like you need it." I did, the whiskey burning down my throat, warming me from the inside. "Who was the woman?" "What woman?" "Don't play games with me, Edoardo." There was a woman in the crowd, blonde, late 20s, staring at you like she wanted to stab me, or kiss you. Possibly both. "Isabella." He drained his own glass. "I told her yesterday that whatever she thought existed between us was over. Apparently, she didn't believe me." "Maybe you weren't clear enough." "I was perfectly clear." His voice went cold. "But some people need more direct demonstrations." "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, he moved closer, backing me against his desk. "It means she's not your concern. You are my concern. Only you." I'm starting to realize that's not as romantic as it sounds. I never claimed to be romantic, Bella. I claimed to be yours. Flashback. 7 years ago, if you could go anywhere in the world, I asked, lying in the grass beside Edoardo, both of us staring up at clouds, where would you go? "Nowhere," he said immediately. "That's a boring answer." "It's an honest one." He rolled onto his side, propping his head on his hand. "Why would I want to go anywhere else when everything I want is right here? I'm not enough of a reason to stay in one place forever," I'd said, laughing. His expression had gone serious. "Yes, you are. You're the only reason that matters." "You said the wedding is in 3 weeks," I said, pulling myself back to the present. "Where will we live?" "Here. This estate will be ours. My father is moving to the villa in Como. You've already decided everything. I've planned for every contingency." He reached into his jacket, pulling out the velvet box from last night. "But first, this." He opened it, revealing the ruby ring, and took my left hand. The ring slid onto my finger perfectly, the weight of it immediately noticeable. Not just because of the stones, but because of what it represented. Ownership, claiming, forever. "There," he said, his thumb stroking over the ring. "Now everyone knows you're mine." A knock at the door interrupted whatever I might have said. Edoardo's jaw tightened. "What?" he called out, irritation clear in his voice. The door opened, and a young woman entered. Not Isabella. This woman was dark-haired, beautiful in a sharp, dangerous way. She wore black, and I noticed the slight bulge at her hip that suggested a concealed weapon. "Forgive the interruption," she said, her accent marking her as Sicilian, But we have a problem. Chiara. Eduardo's voice went flat. This better be important. It is. Her eyes flicked to me, assessing. The Calabrians are here, uninvited, and they're asking about your fiancé. Ice spread through my veins. The Calabrian family was notorious, brutal, unpredictable, and currently at odds with the Morellos over territory disputes. How many? Eduardo's entire demeanor changed, the man I'd been talking to disappearing behind the executor's mask. 4, plus security. They claim they're here to offer congratulations, but they're here to assess her, to see if she's a viable target. He turned to me, his expression grim. Stay here, lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Chiara. Eduardo. This is not a request, Vittoria. His hand cupped my face, almost gentle. Do you understand? Lock the door. Wait for me. Before I could respond, he was gone, Chiara following. I locked the door with shaking hands, then moved to the window. From here, I could see the front of the estate. 4 black SUVs were parked near the entrance, men in dark suits standing beside them. One of them looked up, and even from this distance, I could see him smile. He'd seen me, marked me. I stepped back from the window, my heart racing. This was my life now, not just luxury and power, but targets and threats. Men who would hurt me just to get to Eduardo. The door handle rattled, and I jumped. Vittoria, it's me. Chiara, let me in. I hesitated, then unlocked the door. The woman slipped inside, immediately moving to check the window. They're leaving, she said. Eduardo made his position clear. What position? That anyone who even thinks about touching you will die screaming. She turned to face me, her expression neutral. I'm Chiara Russo. I'll be heading your security detail. You're my bodyguard? I'm your shadow. Wherever you go, I go. Whatever you need, I provide. And if anyone tries to hurt you, I put bullets in them until they stop moving. The casual way she said it made my stomach turn. That's not necessary. I can take care of myself. No, you can't. Her voice wasn't unkind, just factual. You're not trained for this world, Vittoria. You've been sheltered, protected. But now you're engaged to the executor, which makes you a target for every family that wants to undermine the Morellos. I'm here to make sure you survive long enough to walk down the aisle. This is insane. This is reality. She moved to the bar, pouring herself a drink. Get used to it. In 3 weeks, you'll be Mrs. Eduardo Morello, the executor's wife. Every decision you make, every person you speak to, every place you go, it all matters. It all has consequences. The door opened again, and Eduardo entered, his expression thunderous. He took one look at me and crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling me into his arms. Are you all right? He demanded. I'm fine. What happened? Nothing that concerns you. He pulled back, his hands framing my face. But this is why we're getting married quickly. Why you need security. The Calabrians are testing boundaries, seeing if you're protected, if you're weak. And they learned that you're neither. His eyes burned into mine. You're mine, Vittoria, and I protect what's mine with everything I have. No one will touch you. No one will hurt you. I'll burn this city to the ground before I let anyone take you from me. The intensity of it should have frightened me. Instead, I felt something else. Something warm and safe settling into my chest. The engagement party is still happening, he said. We need to go back out there. Show a united front. Show them that you're not afraid. I am afraid. I know. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. But you're brave enough to do it anyway. That's all that matters. As we walked back to the ballroom, his hand never leaving mine, Chiara following at a discreet distance, I realized something. I'd capitulated, surrendered, agreed to marry a man who terrified and fascinated me in equal measure. But maybe, just maybe, that surrender was its own form of power. Because the executor would protect me with the same ruthless efficiency he used to destroy his enemies. And in this world, that protection was worth more than freedom ever could be. The engagement party lasted hours, a parade of congratulations and thinly veiled threats disguised as well-wishes. I smiled until my face ached, accepted kisses on both cheeks from men whose hands had blood on them, and pretended not to notice the calculating looks from women who wondered how I'd managed to catch the executor's attention. Isabella Romano was among them. She cornered me near the champagne fountain while Eduardo was occupied with business discussions. Chiara tensed beside me, but I waved her off slightly. I needed to handle this myself. "So you're the famous Vittoria Cavalli," Isabella said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. She was beautiful, all golden hair and perfect features, wearing a dress that cost more than most people's cars. "Eduardo has told me so much about you. Funny, he's told me almost nothing about you." Her smile tightened. "We were very close, in Sicily, during his time away. And yet, here I am wearing his ring. And you're—" I let my gaze travel over her deliberately. "Not. The ring doesn't mean anything. It's politics, family obligation." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But what Eduardo and I had, that was real. That was passion. You're just the girl he made a promise to when he was a child. If that were true," I said calmly, though my heart was racing, "you'd be the one standing here as his fiancé. But you're not, which tells me everything I need to know about how real your relationship was. You don't know him, not like I do, not the man he became. You're right, I don't know that man." I lifted my chin, channeling every ounce of Cavalli pride. But I knew the boy, and that boy loved me enough to spend 6 years becoming the monster the world needed him to be, just to protect me. "What did you get from him, Isabella? A few nights? Some pretty words? That must have felt like love to you, but it wasn't. It was convenience." Her hand moved, and for a second, I thought she might actually strike me. But Chiara was there suddenly, her grip on Isabella's wrist making the other woman gasp. "I wouldn't," Chiara said quietly, her voice carrying enough menace to make Isabella pale. "Touch her and lose the hand. The executor's orders." "Let her go, Chiara," I said, keeping my voice level. "Isabella was just leaving, weren't you?" Isabella jerked her wrist free, fury and humiliation warring on her perfect face. "He'll tire of you. And when he does, I'll be waiting." "You'll be waiting a long time," I said. "Forever, probably." After she stalked away, Chiara gave me an approving look. "Well handled. Most women would have fallen apart. I'm not most women." "No," she agreed. "You're the executor's woman. That requires a different kind of strength." The party finally ended near midnight. Eduardo had barely left my side for the last hour, his hand a constant presence at my waist, his body language making it clear to everyone that I was his territory. "Come with me," he murmured in my ear as guests began to depart. "I want to show you something." He led me through the estate to a wing I'd never entered before. The security here was tighter, guards at every door, cameras in every corner. When we reached the end of the corridor, Eduardo pressed his palm to a biometric scanner. The heavy door swung open, revealing an office that took my breath away. It was a command center. One wall was covered in monitors showing various locations throughout the city. Another held maps with pins and markers in different colors. File cabinets lined the back wall, and a massive desk dominated the center of the room. "This is where you work," I said, understanding dawning. "This is where I run the family business." He closed the door behind us, the lock engaging with a soft click. Welcome to my world. Vittoria. The real one, not the pretty version we show at parties. I moved to the monitors, recognizing locations. You're watching everything. Not everything, but the important places. Ports, warehouses, territories that matter. He came to stand beside me, his hand settling on my lower back. When you marry me in 3 weeks, you'll have access to this room. To all of it. I turned to stare at him. Why would you show me this? Because I meant what I said. You're not just going to be my wife. You're going to be my partner. My equal. His eyes were intense, burning with something I couldn't quite name. I need someone I can trust absolutely. Someone who understands what we do and why. Someone who can stand beside me when things get dark. You want me to be part of this? The business? I want you to understand it, to see why certain decisions have to be made. He turned me to face him fully. In 2 days, I have to do something. Something that will secure our family's position, but will also be brutal. And I need you to know why. Ice spread through my chest. What are you going to do? The Calabrians who came today? They weren't just assessing you. They were delivering a message. They've been making moves in our territory, testing our strength. If I don't respond, every family will see it as weakness. So you're going to kill them. I'm going to eliminate a threat. His voice was cold, clinical. All 4 men who came today, plus their leadership. They'll be found in their territory, a message to anyone else who thinks about challenging us. I should have been horrified, should have pulled away, refused to be part of this. Instead, I asked, when? Tomorrow night. It'll be quick, professional. They won't suffer. I'm not cruel for cruelty's sake. But they will die. And everyone will know why. Flashback. 6 years ago. Do you ever wonder what it would be like? I asked Eduardo. We were 16 and 15, lying in the grass, watching clouds drift across a summer sky. What would be like? Being normal, not part of this world, just regular people. He was quiet for a long time. Sometimes. But then I think about who I'd be without all this. Without the family, the power, the responsibility. And I realize I'd just be some nobody. I'd have nothing to offer you. You'd have yourself. That's enough. No. He rolled onto his side, his dark eyes serious. It's not. You deserve everything, Vittoria. Everything. And the only way I can give you that is by being who I am. By being strong enough, powerful enough, feared enough that no one would dare to hurt you. I don't need all that. I just need you. He'd kissed me then, soft and sweet. You have me, always. But you'll have everything else too. I promise. I don't want you to do this, I said to the man before me, the one who'd kept that promise by becoming something darker than either of us had imagined. I know, but it has to be done. He cupped my face, his touch achingly gentle. This is who I am, Bella. This is what I do to keep you safe, to keep everyone I love safe. Can you accept that? Could I? Could I love a man who killed without hesitation? Who saw violence as just another tool? But he wasn't killing for pleasure or power. He was killing to protect, to secure, to ensure that what happened to the Calabrians today, them assessing me like I was prey, never happened again. Show me, I said suddenly. His brows drew together. Show you what? Tomorrow night. When you do this, I want to be there. Absolutely not. If I'm going to be your partner, your equal, then I need to understand all of it. Not just the nice parts, not just the parties and the luxury. I grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer. Show me who you really are, Eduardo. Show me the executor. It's not pretty, Vittoria. It's not something you can unsee. I know, but I need to see it anyway. I need to know exactly who I'm marrying. He studied me for a long moment, something like respect flickering in his eyes. You're serious. Completely. If I show you, if you see what I'm capable of, you might not want to marry me anymore. Or, I might understand you better. I held his gaze steadily. Either way, I deserve to know the truth. All of it. He was silent, warring with himself. Then finally, okay, but you stay in the car with Chiara. You watch from a distance, and if at any point you want to leave, we leave. No questions asked. Deal. He kissed me then, hard and desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me before I saw something that would make me run. When we broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. Tomorrow night changes everything, he murmured. There's no going back after this. I know. And you still want to do it? Yes. Why? Why would you want to see that side of me? Because I love you, I said, the words escaping before I could stop them. I love the boy you were and the man you've become. All of you, Eduardo. Even the dark parts. Maybe especially the dark parts, because those are the parts you think make you unlovable. His eyes closed, and I saw his throat work as he swallowed hard. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you, Eduardo Morello. I love you, and I'm going to marry you, and I'm going to stand beside you through everything, even the blood, even the violence, even the parts that terrify me. He pulled me close, burying his face in my hair, and I felt him trembling. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. We stood like that for a long time, holding each other in his command center, surrounded by monitors showing the city he controlled and would kill to protect. Tomorrow night, I would see the monster everyone feared, and I would have to decide if I could love him anyway. And the next evening, Chiara picked me up at 7. I told my father I was having dinner with friends, a lie he believed because he wanted to, because acknowledging the truth would mean acknowledging how deep into Eduardo's world I was already sinking. You're sure about this? Chiara asked as we drove through rain-slicked streets. No, but I'm doing it anyway. Brave or stupid, I haven't decided which. Can it be both? She almost smiled. The executor will be. Different tonight. Don't try to speak to him. Don't try to stop him. Just watch and try not to throw up. We drove to an abandoned warehouse district, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry, and blood could be hosed away without anyone noticing. 3 black SUVs were already there, men in dark clothing moving with military precision. And in the center of it all stood Eduardo. He looked different. Not just his expression, cold, empty, inhuman, but his entire bearing. This wasn't my Eduardo, the boy who'd picked peonies for me. This was the executor, and he radiated death. The 4 Calabrian men were on their knees, bound, gagged. Even from the car, I could see their terror. Eduardo moved to stand before them, and though I couldn't hear his words, I saw his lips move. Saw one of the men try to plead through his gag. Saw Eduardo's head shake once, final and absolute. Then he pulled a gun from his jacket, and my breath stopped. 4 shots, quick, efficient, professional. Each man dropped, and Eduardo didn't even flinch. He stood over the bodies for a moment, then turned and walked away, already speaking into his phone, giving orders for cleanup. As if 4 lives hadn't just ended. As if it meant nothing. Chiara's hand found mine. Breathe, Vittoria. Just breathe. I realized I'd been holding my breath, my vision swimming. He didn't hesitate. No. That's what makes him the executor. No hesitation. No mercy. Just efficiency. Eduardo was walking toward our car now, and I saw him transform. The monster fading, something more human sliding into place. By the time he opened the door and slid in beside me, he almost looked like himself again. Almost. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice rough. I couldn't answer, couldn't form words. He reached for me and I flinched. Pain flashed across his face. "Vittoria." "Take me home," I whispered. "Please." The drive back was silent. When we reached my father's estate, Eduardo caught my hand before I could leave. "Do you still want to marry me?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd just killed 4 people without blinking, who would kill hundreds more to keep me safe. "Ask me tomorrow," I said, "when I've had time to think. Tomorrow might be too late." "Then that's a risk you'll have to take." I left him sitting in the car, walked into my father's house, climbed the stairs to my room, and locked the door. Then finally, I let myself break. I didn't sleep. How could I, with the image of those 4 men falling burned into my retinas? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Eduardo's face, empty, cold, inhuman. The executor, not the boy I'd loved. By dawn, I still didn't have an answer to his question. Did I still want to marry him? My phone buzzed at 6 a.m. "Eduardo, I need to see you. It's important. The chapel, 1 hour." I should have ignored it. Should have taken time to process everything, to decide if I could live with a man who killed so easily. But I was already getting dressed. The chapel looked the same as it always had. Broken stained glass. Stone floor still stained with our blood from years ago. Morning light filtering through the cracks. Eduardo stood in the center, and when he turned to face me, I saw something I'd never seen before. Fear. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "You said it was important." "It is." He moved toward me, stopping just out of reach. "I need to explain. About last night. You killed 4 men without hesitation. What's there to explain?" "Everything." His jaw tightened. "Those men weren't innocent, Vittoria. They've been trafficking weapons to terrorist organizations, using our city as a distribution point. When they started operating in Morello territory, they knew the consequences. So you appointed yourself judge, jury, and executioner?" "Yes." No apology in his voice. "Because if I don't maintain order, if I let threats go unchecked, everything falls apart. And when things fall apart in our world, innocent people die. Women, children, people who have nothing to do with this life. That's convenient justification. It's the truth." He took a step closer. "I'm not asking you to approve of what I do. I'm asking you to understand why I do it. Every person I kill, every order I give, it's to protect something. To protect our family. To protect you." Flashback. 4 days before he left, 7 years ago. We were in his father's library, Eduardo teaching me chess. He was patient, explaining each piece's movement, but his mind was clearly elsewhere. "What's wrong?" I'd asked, moving my knight. "Nothing." "Liar. You've been distant all week." He'd captured my knight with his bishop, then looked up at me with haunted eyes. "What would you do if you had to make an impossible choice? Between protecting someone you love and being with them?" That's not a fair question. There shouldn't have to be a choice. But if there was, I'd thought about it carefully. I'd choose whatever kept them safest. Even if it hurt. Even if it meant losing them. Even if they hated you for it. Even then. I'd reached across the board to take his hand. Because love isn't just about being together. It's about wanting the other person to survive, to thrive. even if you're not there to see it." He'd stared at our joined hands for a long moment. Then he'd whispered, "I hope you remember you said that." "You left to protect me," I said now, understanding flooding through me. "And you became the executor for the same reason, to be strong enough, feared enough, that no one would ever dare to hurt me." "Yes." "But what about you?" My voice cracked. "What about the boy you were? The gentle, sweet boy who picked me flowers and blushed when I kissed his cheek? Did you have to kill him too?" Pain flashed across his face. "I didn't kill him. I buried him. Deep enough that the world couldn't use him as a weakness. Deep enough that I couldn't find him anymore. That no one could hurt him." He closed the distance between us, his hands coming up to frame my face. "But he's still there, Vittoria, still alive. He only comes out for you. Only you. Prove it." He didn't hesitate, didn't think. Just kissed me with such desperate tenderness that tears spilled down my cheeks. This wasn't the executor kissing me. This was Eduardo. My Eduardo. The boy who'd sworn he was mine before either of us understood what forever meant. When we broke apart, both trembling, he rested his forehead against mine. "I love you," he breathed. "I've loved you since we were children. I'll love you until I die. And yes, I'm a monster. Yes, I kill. But never without reason. Never without purpose. And never, ever you. You're sacred to me, Vittoria. You're the only good thing I have left." "Eduardo." The chapel door burst open. Chiara stood there, her face pale, weapon drawn. "We have a problem. Isabella Romano. She's taken hostages at the Cavalli estate." My blood turned to ice. "What?" "She's demanding to speak with you and Eduardo. Says if you don't come within the hour, she starts killing people." Chiara's voice was grim. "Your father is one of the hostages, Vittoria, and your cousin Maria. 3 others." Eduardo's entire demeanor changed in an instant. The gentle lover disappeared, the executor emerging like a blade from its sheath. "How many with her?" he demanded. "Unknown. At least 4 armed men. They got in through the service entrance during the shift change." "Fuck." He turned to me, his eyes hard. "Stay here, with Chiara. Don't move until I come back." "No." I grabbed his arm. "If she wants both of us, we both go." "Absolutely not. I'm not putting you in danger. My father is in there. My family. I'm going. Vittoria, this is my choice. Eduardo, mine." I held his gaze steadily. "You asked me last night if I still wanted to marry you. Here's your answer. Yes. I do. I want to marry you, stand beside you, be your partner in all of this. But that means you don't get to shut me out when things get dangerous. We face it together." Something shifted in his expression. Pride, perhaps, or fear. Maybe both. "Together," he agreed finally. "But you follow my orders exactly. No arguments. No arguments." The drive to my father's estate took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Eduardo made calls the entire way, coordinating his men, planning the assault. By the time we arrived, the property was surrounded by Morello soldiers. Giuseppe met us at the perimeter, his face grave. "She has them in the main dining room, 2nd floor. Says she wants to negotiate." "There's no negotiation," Eduardo said coldly. "She has 2 options, surrender or die." "Let me talk to her," I said. "She's doing this because of me. Let me try to end it peacefully." "No. Eduardo, if we go in with violence, people will die. My father might die. Let me try first." He looked like he wanted to refuse, but finally he nodded. 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to convince her to stand down. After that, I'm coming in, and I won't be gentle." They gave me a wire, a tiny earpiece so Eduardo could hear everything. Then Chiara and I walked to the front entrance while Eduardo's men positioned themselves around the building. Isabella met us in the foyer. She looked different from the polished woman at the engagement party. Wild now, desperate, and holding a gun. "Vittoria Cavalli," she said, her voice shaking. "The famous childhood sweetheart. Do you know what it's like, loving someone who can't love you back? Who's so obsessed with a ghost from his past that he can't see what's right in front of him?" "I'm not a ghost, Isabella. I'm very real. You're a fantasy, an ideal he's built up in his mind over 6 years." She gestured with the gun toward the stairs. "Come. Let me show you what real love looks like." We climbed the stairs slowly, Chiara tense beside me. In my ear, I heard Eduardo's voice. "Stall her. Keep her talking. We're moving into position." The dining room had been transformed into a nightmare. My father was tied to a chair, his face bruised. My cousin Maria sobbed quietly, bound beside him. 3 staff members I recognized were similarly restrained. And standing over them, 4 armed men who looked more nervous than threatening. "These people," Isabella said, gesturing wildly. "They're your weakness, Vittoria. The ones you love. The ones Eduardo would kill to protect because you care about them. That's the only reason they matter to him. Because they matter to you. Isabella, please. Let them go. Whatever you want. I want him." Her voice rose, cracking. "I want Eduardo to look at me the way he looks at you. Like I'm his entire world. Like he'd burn everything down for me. He won't. He can't." I kept my voice gentle. "Because he doesn't love you, Isabella. I'm sorry, but he doesn't. He could. If you weren't in the way. Killing me won't make him love you. It'll just make him destroy you." She laughed, bitter and broken. "Then I'll die knowing I took something from him. Knowing I hurt him the way he hurt me." She raised the gun, pointing it at my father. "Move now," Eduardo's voice commanded in my ear. Everything happened at once. Windows shattered as Morello soldiers repelled into the room. Isabella spun, firing wildly. Chiara tackled me to the ground, covering my body with hers. Return fire erupted, deafening in the enclosed space. When the gunfire stopped, 3 of Isabella's men were down. The 4th had surrendered, hands up. And Isabella herself stood frozen, Eduardo's gun pressed to the base of her skull. "Drop it," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Or I paint these walls with your brain." The gun fell from her trembling hands. "Vittoria," Eduardo called, never taking his eyes off Isabella. "Are you hurt?" "No." I stood on shaking legs, Chiara helping me up. "I'm fine." "Good." To his men, "Cut them loose. Get the hostages medical attention. And take this one to the basement. I'll deal with her later." As they dragged Isabella away, still sobbing, Eduardo finally turned to me. In 3 strides he was there, pulling me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You scared me," he said roughly, his face buried in my hair. "When she pointed that gun at your father. When I thought she might." "I'm okay. We're all okay." He pulled back enough to look at me, his hands framing my face. "No more. No more danger. No more risks. You stay where I can protect you from now on." "Eduardo." "I'm serious, Vittoria. I can't." His voice broke. "I can't lose you. I'd rather die myself than watch you get hurt." I kissed him, soft and sure. "Then it's a good thing you're marrying me in 2 weeks, so you can keep me safe forever." 2 weeks is too long. His arms tightened around me. "Tomorrow. We get married tomorrow." "That's impossible. Nothing is impossible when you're the executor." He kissed me again, fierce and possessive. "Tomorrow you become my wife. Officially, legally, completely mine. No more waiting. No more chances for anyone to take you from me. What about Isabella? His eyes went cold. She threatened what's mine. There's only one punishment for that. Don't kill her. I grabbed his shirt. Please, she's broken and desperate, but she doesn't deserve to die. She pointed a gun at your father. At you. I know, but I'm asking you, as your future wife, as the woman you love, please, show mercy. Just this once. He was silent for a long moment, conflict warring on his face. Then finally, exile. She leaves Italy, never returns. If she ever sets foot in this country again, she dies. That's the only mercy I can show. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Bella, because tomorrow, when you become my wife, you'll understand just how possessive I really am, how completely you'll belong to me. I already belong to you. The blood oath. Fuck the blood oath. He kissed me hard. You're mine because you choose to be, because you love me despite everything you've seen, because you're brave enough to stand beside the executor and call him yours. I do love you, all of you, even the dark parts. Then marry me tomorrow. Say yes. I thought about everything that had brought us here. The boy who'd picked me flowers, the monster he'd become to protect me, the blood we'd shared, and the future we'd build. Yes, I breathed. Tomorrow. Forever. Yes. The wedding was small, just family and a priest in the chapel where we'd made our blood oath. I wore white. Eduardo wore black. And when he slid his grandmother's ring onto my finger, I knew there was no going back. Not that I wanted to, because the truth was, I loved him. The boy and the monster both loved him with the same desperate intensity he loved me. When the priest pronounced us husband and wife, Eduardo kissed me like a drowning man finding air. Mine, he breathed against my lips. Yours, I agreed. Forever. And I meant it, because some promises are sealed in blood, some loves are written in violence and tenderness both, and some people are simply meant to belong to each other, no matter the cost. I was Mrs. Eduardo Morello now, the executor's wife, and I wouldn't have it any other way.